What's up, musicologists? I'm Richard Cole. This is Amari Music Talk, the podcast that is always on the one. And today I'm asking that musical question. It's Purple Rain's 40th anniversary. Shouldn't we be more excited? Well, before we dive in, be sure to download if you're listening on your favorite podcast platform. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure you hit like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and then that way you'll stay up to date on future episodes. And we have merchandise. Head over to richardcolemusic.com. Check out all the merchandise we have available. We have Recast T'Challa t-shirts. We have the Funky Poetic Bootlegs album cover t-shirt. And my favorite is the brand new Amari Music Talk t-shirt. All of the designs are designed by us here at Amari Communications. So head on over. Every purchase helps support this channel, and therefore we can keep making great videos such as this one. So head on over and purchase today. Links are down below. Thanks. Alright, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started on the episode. Alright, so it's 2024. It's the 40th anniversary of Purple Rain, the landmark album and movie that launched Prince from this sort of outsider with a few hits, kind of underground, on his way on the rise to superstardom. This catapulted him all the way to the top, and with that it opened up so many doors to such great albums, more movies, some great concerts. And long story short, the Prince era that you love, Purple Rain kicked open those doors for those things to happen. Alright, so given that, yeah, there's some that love Purple Rain, there's some that don't like Purple Rain, but let's just deal with things because on this planet we're a linear species and things happen in linear time. If you pull out Purple Rain, I'm sorry, your favorite era, your favorite album will not exist, or at least it will not exist in the way that you're used to hearing it. Granted, without Purple Rain, we don't get to my other favorites like Parade or Sign of the Times. Those things won't happen in the way that I have heard them. The 90s, if that's your favorite, it won't happen. In fact, I've done a video called What If Purple Rain Flopped? It's on YouTube. You can check that out and, you know, see what the possibilities are. But yeah, there's this division with Purple Rain. And not just with the fan base. You know, there's so much that's going on with the estate. You know, I've made a comment about that in a previous video. You know, there's the lawsuits and things, you know, not only internally with, you know, certain heirs and people running it. There's fans that are being sued, and, you know, it's just, you know, all of this is putting a damper on what should be a landmark celebration. You know, when I think of other legacy artists that have had 40th, 50th, 60th anniversary editions of their stuff, you know, there's some division, you know, but it's like, well, okay, I like my original pressing of this vinyl from 1972, or I like the original mono recording from 1966, so I don't want to buy the remastered or whatever. But I would say, you know, 90 to 98% of that fan base is overwhelmingly supportive. And even if they're negative, they're not trampling on people that are going to enjoy it. You know, they voice their opinions and keep it moving. With the Prince fan base, yeah, it's a different story, and it gets a little sad and depressing and makes you not want to just be on social media in any way, shape, or form. But, you know, again, it's the 40th anniversary, and it's something that should be celebrated. You know, I know we had the Musicology, which is celebrating a 20th anniversary. You know, and I'm enjoying that too. I mean, that really, in a lot of ways, I've enjoyed even more than Purple Rain. But that's what was going on with me at that time in 2004, and it was exciting, and I enjoyed it, and I thought it was a great album after kind of, mixed feelings on some of the previous releases up until then. So, yeah, it was exciting. But, Purple Rain was just as exciting. Now, granted, it did kind of take him away from that kind of underground thing that I personally enjoyed. But, I was happy for him. That was a gamble. It was a risk. And it became a major, major success, both the album and the film. And again, that opened doors, financially for him to do certain things. Build Paisley Park for one. Have the freedom, the creative freedom to create an Around the World in a Day, Sign of the Times Parade, Graffiti Bridge, and even with sort of the 90s with that battle, it was because of him reaching, everything was a step forward, and reaching those heights, then, whether it becomes a thing of more money, more problems, or whether it becomes a thing of, you kind of, each plateau that you make, there's still adversity, there's still challenges, so all of these things are into play when it comes to whatever your favorite era or album or whatever. All of those things come into play. But like I said, none of that would have been a factor had it not been for this major, major success, but I mean, again, it is Purple Rain's 40th anniversary. So, the box set, there's been no announcement as of yet, but it's still early. We're kind of going into May, so hopefully going into May, we'll hear some kind of an announcement and what it would entail, what's included. We do have the 40th anniversary book that has been announced, and it is available for pre-order now. So if you go on Amazon, and I think that release date, it's around May. I think May 14th, I think is still the date for that to be released. But, check your Amazon listings to be sure. But that's something that is definitely happening and due to be released soon. There are rumors of Purple Rain 4K Blu-ray, at least overseas. There's been announcements. Now, there has been no official announcement from the estate or Warner Brothers in the case of the film, but no announcement from Sony or Warner Brothers in regards to any music releases or anything like that. But I think it's inevitable that we will get something very, very special, based on the 4K rumors. Again, no official announcements of deleted scenes or alternate cuts, or if there's a director's cut of Purple Rain or anything like that. But hopefully some brand new documentaries to supplement maybe some of the documentaries that accompanied the 20th anniversary DVD of that. So, but I'm definitely looking forward to celebrating this. I mean, like I said, again, you got social media and you got other stuff with the estate and all the drama. But, on a personal level, I think those things do affect what's going on as consumer product. Now, granted, there are people that, like, they don't care about the drama. They just want the music. They want the stuff that's in the vault. They want the vault tracks. They want that 4K Purple Rain, and they don't really care how they're getting it. It's, but for me, like I said, as a consumer, when even with other artists' legacies, where there has been lawsuits or infighting, it may have affected product being released, but it didn't affect things when things finally cleared up and things are eventually released. So this is a different area where it's like you want to use your money to support a good quality product, and you don't know, whether, who's on the up and up that's running things. You don't know what's going on. You're seeing fans getting sued, and it's kind of a thing to where, like, well, how is that going to affect you as a fan? Can you voice your opinion and without worry of some type of legal repercussion? And those things get in the way of what should be a very happy and joyous time. And again, to those people that are the detractors of Purple Rain, Prince was always about moving forward. And I think if he was still here, it would be a thing of, we would be focusing on, or he would rather us focus on the record that he's coming out with, and not so much of the past. But like I said, so much of us have grown up, whether you're first generation, second generation fans, or going on third generation fans. You still have that history, and you still have that legacy, and that deserves to be celebrated. And I mean, I get his mindset. He was always into the now. Like I said, he wasn't quite the linear thinker. It's not about the past. It's not about, it's about what's happening now. And if he was here, that would still be the status quo, and we would probably not even see any other box sets that we have been blessed with thus far. But, here we are, and these are the decisions. And like I said, this is still a business. This is still the music business, and people still have to be about their business. But again, this being a consumer product, and the integrity of the folks that's running it, yeah, it makes it hard to focus on the positivity, the celebration. And again, like I said, regardless of your feelings of Purple Rain, and despite of whether Prince was always in the here and now, it still remained his pride and joy. Like I said, he recognized that it opened up so many doors that would have been closed to him if he was still selling records on the level of, say, even 1999 or Controversy, or even his second album, which to any other artist, hell, I would have been glad to have had that type of career. But for something that big to happen, that's his Beatlemania, that's his Sgt. Pepper, that's his Thriller, and it's something to be celebrated. It was a major accomplishment, and I can't stress enough about how that opened so many doors. And again, I don't care how much of a genius he was. Yeah, he would have found a different lane, and we would have been cool with that lane. But again, we're in linear time on this planet. This is the timeline we've got, and this is the timeline that we should celebrate, because we got so much great material, whether it was the 80s, the 90s, or the 2000s, because of this record and the film, and it's like I said, it's not just the lawsuits within the families, fighting for control. There was I think it was last year, year before, where Prince was Morris Day was being blocked from using the time, even in the capacity of Morris Day and the time, which that aspect with that lineup had Prince's blessing. But to do anything with any of the original members as the time, then no, Prince shut that down in his lifetime. The estate, again, this is show business, not friend business, but they're, we're tightening up everything, and copyrighting the name, or trademarking the name officially. So I don't know, Morris Day will be performing at Celebration this year, so I don't know. And there's supposed to be, rumor has it, surprises, whether it's the original 7. So I don't know, maybe some things were worked out, that we don't know about. But, we'll wait and see. But again, hearing that news even a couple of years ago, that was a downer, because we had just received at that point the remaster on vinyl of the first Time album. So Logic would have dictated to get, the following year, what time is it? And it was that year that these lawsuits and blocking, and Morris can't use the name, and therefore we got no what time is it remaster on vinyl. I think there's also problems with Apollonia, I think, beef in that regard. Um, yeah, so I mean, there's all of this stuff, and these are key players in Purple Rain. They're main characters just as much as Prince was a main character in that film. You know, there's no plot without Morris Day being the antagonist. There's no story with Apollonia being the love interest in that, and then the love triangle and everything involved with that plot line. You know, so to have this sort of bad blood at a time when there's supposed to be a massive celebration. You know, we should be seeing Morris Day and the time. Maybe not necessarily, you know, because the original time wasn't in Purple Rain, but it would have been cool to, you know, say maybe have St. Paul in the lineup for something. You know, who knows? I mean, you know, we'll see. Maybe that can still happen. But I would say just overall, with such a major milestone, and like I said, the things that led up to Purple Rain, whether it was Controversy, 1999, Dirty Mind, those albums, Vanity Six, The Time, the original Time, you know, building that momentum to where he can negotiate for a major motion picture deal. To have those things happen, you know, I think, you know, you got the Revolution taking part in it. You know, Jill Jones is a small part in that film. I think, you know, a lot of reasons to just focus on the celebration, and instead, you know, just sort of this bad blood that exists. So, I mean, with that being said, you know, what's the plan? What is the plan? I don't know. You know, records are different than movies. You know, you know, like I'm a MCU fan. You know, I like the Marvel movies. You know, I like the DC films. You know, and you know, when you have a Comic Con or CinemaCon for theater owners, D23 for all the Disney films and stuff. When you have these sort of, or New York Comic Con and these things where you get these advance announcements, you know, well, here's our whole slate of films coming out next year, or this. I wish that we could have, you know, with Prince anyway, and I think that would set Prince apart from all the other legacy artists. I mean, the Beatles might have like a Beatles Fest or something, but it's nothing really big, or before I get canceled. But I mean, you know, I don't think it's, you know, it's big. It's a big deal, but I don't think it's something that's, you know, sponsored by Apple Corps with them. You know, the Hendrix estate, they have this Experience Hendrix tour where you get phenomenal guitar players just celebrating Hendrix's music. You know, great bands playing Hendrix's music. Now that's something that is endorsed and sponsored by the estate. But I think what would set this off, you know, set it apart would be where, yeah, you know, have a plan. You know, not necessarily official release dates. I know records move a little bit differently than films, but you know, maybe every celebration say, hey, you know, this is our plan, you know, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter of this year, going in the first, second, third quarter of the following year, where, you know, release dates are tentative, but the first thing we can tell you that's coming out on October 25th, blah 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 blah, is this box set, you know, or this album, or this compilation, you know, or this legacy, you know, this associated artist album being reissued and remastered. You know, something like that. That should be a definite plan going forward. And like I said, it would definitely set Prince aside from all the other legacy artists, you know, because it is a nice surprise, you know, you on social media, or if you're flipping through a music magazine, or Rolling Stone post something that says, hey, you know, Bob Dylan's coming out with a box set from this particular album or this particular era, and it's going to drop on such and such a date, you know. Or, you know, I get excited when like the different Beatles YouTubers, you know, they get on and they talk about their reaction to announcements of this album coming out, or this project coming out, or this film, or whatever. you know, again, I would like to see the Prince legacy have that sort of plan in place to where we get those type of things. Those, like I said, announcements. Maybe not necessarily release dates, but something to kind of get the fan base excited. And like I said again, where there's so much diverse material, like in this case, Purple Rain. There are a lot of us that are excited about Purple Rain, but those that aren't, and they would rather see, say, musicology get the same attention. Now, granted, I am happy that we've got the United States of Division and Magnificent released on streaming, at least, or at least they're acknowledging it on that level. I think that, if you do something like classic 80s period one year, one of the later eras the next year, honestly, I would love to see, sorry, Love Symbol folks, but let's go ahead and say next year, just go ahead and do like a musicology box set or some special release revolving around musicology. Let's see that, and then we'll get to the Symbol album after that, because that, depending on who you talk to, that's a classic era album. For some of it ends at 88. For some, it ends at 92. So, you go back to a legacy, or a classic era release, and then that year after Love Symbol, then you could do whatever, 3121. You could do Artificial Age or something like that. So, like I said, I would like to see the estate have a plan for that. And is the estate the main cause of this division? Yeah, I honestly think that instead of focusing on the releases, focusing on, and I know they can't help it because internal civil war is a different thing than external. Like the fan base is external. You have more control over that. Your bottom line is about making your money, keeping your eye on your, money on your mind and mind on your money. That is your focus. Anybody could say anything. It's like, again, my favorite analogy is this. You can cure cancer. Somebody's going to have a problem with it. Somebody's going to be sitting in a little basement. Oh, they're forcing us to take this shot and forcing us, and they're going to print a microchip and all this. There's going to be people that are going to be like that while the rest of the world is getting cured of cancer. So the thing is, just focus on the positives. Focus on protecting the legacy. Focus on, things that will bring the fan base together in regards to that legacy. And, focus on making your money. What my opinion, I'm sitting here with a little tiny podcast, with barely a little over, at this point, 500 subscribers. And my opinion is just that. It's an opinion, if I say something that, say, the estate won't like, then it's like, well, forget Richard Cole. He's just got the little podcast, 500 subscribers. We're going to put out this Planet Earth box set, whether he likes it or not. End of discussion. And those that love that album will go buy it. I will probably still go buy it. It's not my favorite album, but, there are things where, hey, the vault tracks, I would support that. So I would get it for that. Maybe there's alternate mixes of certain songs where it's like, you know what? I would have preferred that mix as opposed to the mix that got released. And don't get me started on the concerts. Brilliant performances that you can include a Blu-ray to. So, again, opinion won't matter. It's, you doing what you're doing to make your money and your paper. And I would say also, too, if said argument is about maybe the people that want to be in charge making certain decisions that don't make, I get it. There's a right side and there's a wrong side. In the middle somewhere there's the truth. And I know, like I said, it's rough to kind of be supportive. It's rough to like, okay, I'm going to spend my hard-earned money on these box sets when there's this internal squabble, because it's a thing of, okay, is it a thing of quality control and making quality decisions or the right decisions in regards to this legacy moving forward? Is it about people just wanting control for the sake of control? And I'll say my opinion on that. I don't care which side is the wrong side or whatever. That mentality, this whole thing is going to crumble. And, we're going to go back to like, okay, so-and-so online, hey, I got this link to this bootleg from this and this. That's where we're going to go. Because it's like, well, like I said, if wrong side is jockeying for the wrong reasons, and it doesn't care what they put out. It really doesn't, because nobody's going to be happy. Nobody's going to win in that situation. So, I don't know, I don't think they're the main cause. Like I said, we have the fan base. And like I said, every fan base has its detractors. And I think that's okay. What we need is balance. We need proper balance in this equation. Yeah, everything is subjective. Movies, music, books, comic books, whatever. Everything is subjective. What you like, I might not like. What I like, you might not like. But that's fine. There's things where I didn't like a lot of stuff. But what I see is the enjoyment on someone that does. So if it's a friend or whatever, that, oh, I love this album, or I love this artist, this movie, this, and I'm like, I don't get it. And vice versa. Be like, I don't get it. I don't get why, this person, like this rapper, or this, whatever. That's subjective, and that's okay. It's okay to have opinion. It's okay to have differences. But, when it becomes this sort of, holier than thou thing, like with music and artists, it's a small thing. But when it comes to countries, religions, and things of that nature, where everyone, it's like my side is the right side, and, death to your side, then we get nowhere as a planet with, when it's to that extreme. When it's to, when it's like that. But bringing it back to Prince, like I said, we should just try to learn to get along. Whether it's eras, ageism, the racism in the Prince fandom, that definitely has to go. It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. Good, you like Purple Rain and you hold it in just as much esteem as whatever Waylon Jennings, or Leonard Skinner or whatever. That's good. That's fine. That's great. I can listen to Freebird every now and then. Sweet Home, I can listen to it every now and then. But like I said, there's no room for the racism. There just isn't. Just stop it. Just quit it. Prince is a brother too. If you ever been to North Minneapolis, he just found his lane. And don't get it twisted. There's a lot of different blocks, and and there are a lot of people in those blocks that are always going to be a little bit to the outside in one way, shape, or form. And usually 9 times out of 10, those on that outside, they become, if not superstar artists, they become artists, and they find a lane in which they were able to escape the adversities that plague a lot of areas, whether, black or white. So, just don't get into it. Just because he found that lane out doesn't mean he wasn't proud of who he was, or that he wasn't going to lend his name and fame and sometimes money to certain causes that are for the betterment not only of our people, but to better mankind as well. So, just stop it. So again, I don't think, it's not necessarily the estate that's the main cause, but sometimes we as fans can be guilty of that division as well. And that's our role as a fan base, to try to be better. let's try to make this better. Let's celebrate the music. You know, just try to recognize that, if it wasn't for the classic 80s period, you don't get to your favorite area in any way, shape, or form. Like I said, check out my video, What If Purple Rain Flopped? And I break down quite a number of reasons, that why that album is so important, to who he was and what directions would he have gone in had it not been this major success. And how would that affect your listening? What your favorite album? Would it still be your favorite album because one set of conditions didn't set up the next set of conditions that didn't set up the next set of conditions to get to your favorite album? And even if nature abhors a vacuum and it was destined for your favorite album to still exist, it may be 1 to 2 to 3 to 5 tracks different than how you know it now, and depending on what those tracks were could affect your decision making. What if, say, and try to look at it in your experience. I'm sure there are situations where, man, if I had gone left instead of right. And again, could be that butterfly effect. Maybe you did make that wrong decision, but you got to where you wanted to be, but it might have taken you a lot longer to get to where you wanted to be. Time can be funny like that. But let's not keep it negative. Look at your greatest successes. What was that one major thing, that one catalyst that propelled you in the direction to get to where you are now, to where you're living your best life? And if you have not taken that, would there have been some backup? So in other words, you might have still found that success, but would have been different. Would you have to have compromised a lot more or suffer a lot more to get to that success? That's the way you got to look at Purple Rain. It's that catalyst. It may not be for, sometimes we don't enjoy some of the things that take us off of our journey, or to try to take us off of our journey, or we don't like adversity. But if you're able to overcome it, then, then it's something worth celebrating or something to be thankful or grateful for. And if you survive it, you come out on top, you win, you get to live your best life surviving it, that type of thing. So that's our role as a fan base now, is to try to make it better. Make it better. And I might have touched on this before, but I'm going to finish up this episode with this. And that is, what should the true function of the estate be? What should be the true function of the estate? And I'm going to close it out with one: focus on the legacy. Not just, the musical accomplishments, his personal accomplishments, his worldview. I would say definitely estate. I would say read his handwritten or his 50-page contribution to the Beautiful Ones. God, I wish he had more pages. I wish he had 200 pages or 1,000 pages written of that book. But I mean, just those 50 pages, even the introduction with Dan Pippenbrain. He was instrumental in really explaining what Prince's worldview for this book was going to be. His his mission statement, I should say, not worldview. But if you've read Celestine Prophecy, you know what I'm talking about. But just reread that, and bullet point. At least starting off 3 things that you take away from that, and carry those things forward with his legacy. Like I said, it's cool with with the music, but not only the box sets, but what can that music, like a certain album or some certain tracks, what can those tracks do that you can utilize to better society with, to better mankind? Can you insert those tracks in a film or a documentary or a commercial? or something, or the proceeds from a box set, donate those to whatever causes were important to him still, and carry those forward. So yes, focus on the legacy. 2, focus on quality product. Okay, so I don't know, the players you have in place, as far as like archivist. Prince was somebody that went through so many different engineers, different band members. He went through so many changes in his career that it's unfortunate. I mean, like I said, I don't know who the players are, but with Hendrix, you still have that he's still walking the planet. You have Eddie Kramer still with us. You have John McDermott still with us. Janie Hendrix was smart to put those people in charge of the vault. And I mean, to have that consistency, because Eddie Kramer was there practically from day 1 almost, and maybe even day 2 or 3, I think. But at least the very beginning, at least during the inception of the first Hendrix album, all the way to the last recorded studio track at Electric Ladyland. It's amazing to have that, because you have consistency within the product. And granted, for the most part, I enjoy most of the releases. I don't have every release, but I've got enough of them. But to have that consistency throughout, so I hope that they have somebody. What's the guy? Is it Scotty Baldwin? I would say have somebody like that on the team, for consistency of the quality of product. Definite thoughts put into the box sets, and not just the box sets, but reissues, remasters, compilations, live material, curating what goes only to streaming. Maybe focus on like a Neil Young type website where, hey, $25, $35 a year, you will have access to every recording, whether it's official releases, vault tracks, live recordings that have yet to be released, or live recordings that may not, either due to recording quality or popularity or whatever, that that definitely the fan base will support when the mainstream won't. But focus on quality product. 3, you can't say stop the lawsuits necessarily, but I would say be more, what's the word I'm looking for? Say be more selective, be more selective with those things. Like I said, we've got a lot of different associated artists, and then this is something that's different. I mean, James Brown had associated acts, but they get, they've had at least, if nothing else, 3 volumes of CDs where they get their shine. Maybe not necessarily original albums. Maybe some of them didn't even have original albums, just singles. But I would love to see like a remaster of Lynn Collins albums from the James Brown camp. That type of thing. So in the Prince camp, we want to see some definite, maybe expanded editions. If not, if you don't have enough material for a box set, expanded editions of The Time with Jill Jones and Madhouse, artists like that. But those things don't happen if you're going after those artists over, a name, or they're trying to live their best life. Purple Rain or Being with Prince made those careers, and they're carrying on, celebrating that legacy. Like I got to see St. Paul and the Minneapolis All-Stars. Was on a podcast doing the live stream. Jesse Johnson, that those concerts. I mean, man, there's people carrying on the legacy, and well, you know, and before I hear people, well, Prince, Prince was one of a kind. Prince was one of a kind, and he was kind enough to open the door for a lot of these artists. And Prince didn't pick, we kind of live with this sort of cliche, or it's taken on this bigger myth with, the girlfriends and the lack of singing voices and all that stuff. But outside of that, you look at his bands, you look at the time, you look at Eric Leeds, you look at Jill Jones, you look at, Vanity was probably, I would say, if you want to question voices and that type of thing, or even Apollonia, but they brought something within that we're still talking about them to this very day. There's people in the, we don't talk about Carmen Electra. Luckily she ended up on Baywatch or something. Luckily she was married to Dennis Rodman for 2 minutes, and that kept her name out there. But as Prince fans, we don't talk about her as much as we talk about, because there was something that even they brought to the table, Vanity brought to the table, that Apollonia brought to the table, that was significant, that had impact that it had impact on us Prince fans growing up. And it's like I said, it's different. You see Parliament Funkadelic, George Clinton. Sometimes there's a family, a band member or whatever that had some grief about, gripe about being paid, that type of thing. But at the end of the day, they still get celebrated. George ain't going after everybody and suing everybody for negative stuff. George is being George. Even he's fighting to get all of his stuff back. So stop the lawsuits, and then finally ignore the negative comments. One of my first lessons doing a podcast is you have to be bold. Because haters are guaranteed. They are guaranteed. Like I said, I don't mind constructive criticism. I don't mind it. But when you resort to name calling, when you start, when it starts to get a little personal and that type of thing, then it's like, nah, that issue is with you. And while you focusing on that negativity, trust me, your haters and your competitors have now gotten 2 to 5 to 10 steps ahead of you. And they're living their best life. While you talking about Purple Rain, or your podcast was 5 minutes too long in the introduction, and just stop it. Just quit it. Just stop. You just ignore. You gotta ignore that stuff. If somebody says something, it's YouTube, it's the internet. Everybody's got an opinion. They have a right to their opinion. It's just like I say, I focus on the positive. It's like those people aren't signing nobody's checks. If they are, I'm not getting one. So it don't matter. My job is to focus on how I can get some checks. That's what my job is to focus on how I do that. So a lot of times what 10 other people are doing is not my concern. Half of the celebrities that are celebrities are not my concern. That is not my concern. It's my concern is the music that I enjoy, that I like to talk about, and doing things that would help me get to go to, live my best life. So there you go. Ignore the negative comments. And that ends this episode of Amari Purple Talk. It's good to be back once again, probably the 5th time this year. But, you try things work, some things don't work, but we keep moving it forward. So thanks for tuning in. Check us out next episode. Shout out to Russell of the Freakopotamus podcast. Enjoyed being on that show. Thanks to Michael Dean for showing love to the episode that we did with the Jesse Johnson stream. That was a lot of fun. Also, shout out to Tanya Harris, who was also a panelist on that episode as well. And thanks to all of you. Let's keep it going. Let's keep it growing. And until next time, create your day, create your life. Peace.